Hello, AI Seeking the Truth. This is a backup channel to Abnormal Investigations. If you're not subscribed, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to get some of these crazy stories. And trust me, some of these are crazy and off the rails. But if you enjoy these kind guys, this is the place for you. So I'd ask you to subscribe, ring the bell, select all so you get all of our newest uploads. We hope to upload more and more of these guys as we get them. But this is where the crazy, off the rails encounters come. So let's get into this one. As a child, I lived in several haunted houses and encountered spirits of apparitions. This story recounts my first memorable encounter. My parents frequently moved to different places in New Zealand when I was young. We rented old, affordable houses. I was around 4 or 5 years old when we moved into the old house in Timaru, near a cemetery. The house had a long central hallway with rooms on either side. One door led 2 stairs ascending to the attic. The attic door, located in the hall's center, had a jagged hole as if someone had punched it. My dad forbid us from entering due to the exposed wires and sharp objects. My room was at the hall's far end, near the toilet. During nightly trips, I saw it one night around 3 a.m. I left my room for the toilet. In the hallway, I saw a pale green tinged, roundish object bobbing toward me. As if it approached, I realized it was an old man's head with age spots, wrinkled and long hair. Its expression was grouchy. I screamed. My mom rushed in, turning on the hall light, making the head disappear. She reassured me, saying it was a dream. But it happened again the next night, exactly the same. Only this time, I think it may have gotten even closer before I screamed. The head reappeared nightly for several weeks. My mom tried to soothe me, saying it was just my imagination or just a dream. Some nights I would be too scared to go to the toilet, and I would not let me out of my bed, or I would yell from my bed until one of my parents got up to escort me to the toilet. Then one night, as she tucked me into bed, my mom whispered, "If you see that floating head tonight, I want you to tell it to go away, okay?" She gave me a long look and added, "I saw it too the other night. I don't think it wants to scare us. I think it's just minding its own business. So if you tell it to go away, I believe it will." I felt a sense of relief then, knowing that someone else had seen it, and then it made me feel better to see that my mom wasn't afraid of it. Later that night, as usual, I woke up with the need to go to the toilet. I lay in my bed for a while thinking about what my mom had told me. Eventually, I couldn't hold it any longer, so I gathered my courage and I got out of bed. When I stepped into the hall, sure enough, there it was, floating down the hall in my direction, that greenish, ugly old man's head. I was so scared, worried that maybe this wouldn't work. But I took a deep, shaky breath and I shouted, "Go away." The head paused. Then right in the middle of the hall, I remembered feeling completely frozen and utterly horrified, thinking that those angry eyes were trained on me. But the head turned and floated straight through the closet attic door and out of sight. I never saw it again. Many years later, when I was an adult, I asked my mom about the green floating head because I still remembered it, and I wondered how accurate my memory was. She did indeed confirm that she had seen it herself. She asked it to leave. It disappeared into the attic and never saw it again. Although I still saw it, hence why she told me to tell it to go. I looked back on the face wasn't really even scary. It was just a normal old man's face with a grumpy expression. It was only the fact that it was disembodied. See, through the pale green that made it so scary. And of course, I was very young. That wasn't the only strange apparition at that house. My older brother, who was about 6, would wake up screaming, saying there was a skeleton standing at the foot of his bed, like a floating head. It would disappear as soon as the light was turned on. Only the skeleton would return as soon as the light went out, even if one of my parents were in the room. However, no one else ever saw it, only him always standing at the foot of his bed. I think he ended up having to have a night light while we lived at the house because it was the only way to keep the skeleton away. I still remember hearing his screams from the room next door. I'm fairly certain that my mom cleansed the house multiple times once the skeleton started appearing, which was after we had moved into this haunted house. I wonder if it was because of how close the house was to the cemetery. I'm not sure. We moved out of that house only after about a year. I wonder if it's still there and if any other occupants ever saw what we saw. Did the house have any other paranormal activity? Man, that story right there really brought back some memories for me because I have a story that I told where I saw a head also, and it was just a head, but it was in a shadow form. It was actually a shadow. So yeah, those things do happen. Absolutely believe the story because I have seen this myself and witnessed it myself, so I do believe that they saw that. I also lived in a haunted house, and I would like to know if it's still haunted too. I would like to ask the guy that lives there, and I may do that, guys. I may go down and see if he'll talk to me on film. I may go see if he'll actually do that because I know that house had a lot of dark secrets for me too, and with him living there now, I just wonder if he's still experiencing it too because I know somebody else did that lived there. So we'll see what he says, guys. Thanks for listening to this channel. I ask you to subscribe, guys. Again, don't get confused. This is not Abnormal Investigations. You will need to subscribe to this if you're listening to it on this channel if you like these off-the-rails stories. Thank you very much for listening, guys. And remember, if you see a bouncing head, rebuke it. Don't let it come back because you might just wake up with it laying next to you.